What is up, hotties? Happy Super Bowl Sunday, and welcome back to another episode of Stay Hot. I'm Blaiden Kirk, joined as always by my two favorite co-hosts of all time in Matthew Sponauer and Theo Ash. Of course, we have an excellent episode planned for you all today. We're talking about the Super Bowl that just happened, a marvelous game that we just got to watch between the Chiefs and the Eagles. You can say what you want about the penalty tarnishing it at the end. It was a great game to watch. I think I can speak for all of us when I say that. But before we talk about it, Matt, Theo, how are you guys doing today?
Go ahead, I'm doing pretty good. The Super Bowl, however, is tarnished for me. I didn't think Goodell would bail out Mahomes like that, but here we are. Why can't he just let the boys
I was
play?
trying so hard with my jinx. I was trying so hard.
You did your best, but unfortunately, the script is the script.
I really thought the Mahomes, he's trying to battle against the MVP curse and the coin toss. I really thought that was going to be the one. But alas.
It's what can you do? But it was a great game. It was a lot of fun to watch. And now we turn our attention to the Carolina Panthers in their offseason, I'm afraid.
And now all eyes are on Rodgers, you mean, and the future of the Green Bay Packers.
No, all eyes are on the Cleveland Browns. And
well, I will admit that I'm disappointed by the way the game ended, right? I would have preferred that they get the stop and with a minute left, there's a chance at a legacy drive. Obviously, right. That's what I was hoping for.
Even like a game-winning touchdown, right?
Yeah, and it was a bit of an anticlimactic ending to what was a great game. But I mean, Twitter, oh my God, dude. First of all, he got a fistful of jersey. There's screenshots that I saw and I was like, yeah. And then after the game, Bradbury was like, well, I was just kind of hoping they'd let us play. And I hope they did too, right. That was kind of an uncatchable ball. It was, real quick. It was a ticky-tack call, but at the end of the day, it was a justifiable call, certainly.
Right.
And there's 60 minutes, don't drop the ball, Jalen Hurts, and get it returned for a touchdown, and you're not in this situation, right? Get a stop in the second half. So it never comes down to just a call, ever. Even the Saints, when their guy got lit up and the PI rules changed.
That I consider even more so because the Saints had the ball again with a real chance to score. In this play, look, I agree it doesn't, obviously doesn't come all down to one play, and don't put yourself in that position, sure. But I don't know, dude. I think it was a bad call. I'd be pissed if I was an Eagles fan. I agree.
I can understand being upset. I can understand being upset from the perspective of Bradbury is yes, it was on me. I thought I was hoping they wouldn't call it because they weren't calling those all game. Right. They were kind of letting the guys play, and you figured at the end of the game, they would keep that same mentality going. So from that perspective, I understand being upset. But as far as
it was a weak call, and not necessarily
but just because it's right doesn't mean it's right.
There was a play on a third down early in the game where Juju was running a dig and he felt that he got interfered with. And when they showed the replay, someone had a handful of jerseys somewhere else. That wasn't Juju on the play. And that could have easily been a call. He had a fistful of jersey and they didn't call it. They were letting him play. So definitely keep that precedent. Again, I'd like to see him let it play, right? I'd like to see it decided with the players instead of the refs. It was really ticky-tack, but it wasn't a phantom call. That's what I'll give it. And Bradbury admitted it's such, and everyone calling me an industry plant and a corporate shill on Twitter needs to chill out.
Notice how he went to Radio Row, and all of a sudden, the refs are actually so right, guys. I'm relatively on the same boat, but I think I lean farther into that's bullshit territory. I mean,
well, it reminds me of last year when the Bengals had a similar call that's kind of screwed them towards the end, where it was kind of ticky-tack. I think it was Logan Wilson. Yeah. Do you remember this in the red zone?
I remember that. I think it was Devontae had a real fit about it on Twitter.
Oh, all the Bengals fans who are like, it's rigged against us. So now it's rigged against the Eagles. The Bengals fans thought it was rigged against them last time. I'm just sick of the refs like talking about damn, I wish they would just shut up and not call anything. But man.
No, I think it was Devondre Campbell. I think it was Devondre Campbell that tweeted about it. He was like, oh, well, everyone thinks it's a linebacker, so it's a mismatch. It was like Devontae, I don't know. Someone in the NFL was tweeting about it, and it was like, that's a bad call.
But I think I lean more into that's bullshit category. Yeah, I mean, it was a little bit of a hold, but that ball was not getting caught. And absolutely they were letting the guys play. And I subscribe very heavily to there's holding on every play. I know that's more of an offensive line thing said, but there's a lot of holding. And changing the precedent that you've set all game, I think is kind of brutal, man. And sure, don't get yourself in that position. They didn't lose the game exclusively because of the refs, but also, I mean, it's so you can't get in a close game, you know? I think it was a really bad call in my opinion. It didn't lose them the entire game, you know. Don't allow a scoop and score. And my personal like headcanon for this is that this is ball don't lie for the fumble that got called back. That was a fumble by my book.
See, I disagree with you there, but I just don't want to talk about the refs all game.
I thought that was an incomplete pass.
It's a fumble.
I think when you watch it at full speed,
you watch it at full speed. It's a fumble.
I guess that's fair.
I thought it looked like bang bang. Like I don't know. I disagree, but I don't want to talk about the refs too much.
This is the refs podcast. Actually,
well, you know, it's 2 feet, and you've caught it unless you're not on the sideline, in which case you need to do the salsa for a second and a half, and then you've caught it. It makes no sense. They could take 9 steps. I've seen them call that a fumble or an incomplete pass. It's ridiculous. It's silliness.
I felt like Tony Romo a lot. I felt like Tony Romo a lot in this game, where there was a lot of close calls that the refs had to make. The Goddard catch, where Devontae Smith. Felt like Romo going, I don't know, like with the people I was, I don't know, it could be. Right. I was doing that a lot this game, so it was just a lot of really close calls. The Goddard catch, like I said, Devontae Smith, the fumble, the holding at the end. I mean, for everyone to be happy when there was just so many bang bang plays and close calls, I don't know. Right. I just want to talk about the football that got played, honestly. Like it's tough because like you said, Matt, even you say like, yeah, there was a little bit of holding on that play. So it's like, how mad can you really be?
But you know, I don't know, like, Jim. I feel like you don't call that holding, nobody is out of the game. You call that holding, game is over.
Yep, I agree. Yeah. I wish it would not. I wish it was not called, but for people to say like this ring has an asterisk for the Chiefs. This ring has an asterisk. This ring bailed. Like, bro, like no, it's not. They did not get bailed. They put up 38 points, dude. Yeah. If the Eagles want to win the game, don't allow 38 points. That's the whole what it comes down to. Oh my God. Like, if you wanted to win, get a sack on Mahomes. All right. And this is where I think we could start talking about what actually happened, like I've been saying. But like, shout out the Chiefs offensive line, right? Like the Eagles played, I thought the Eagles offensive line played a fantastic game. Yeah. But the Chiefs offensive line, I mean, totally stonewalled them. It felt like Mahomes had all day. It really didn't feel like. I thought Gannon had a bad game plan. Like early in the game, they mentioned, the announcer said, like Gannon wanted Mahomes to get it out in 2.5 seconds or less. They didn't want him to move around. They didn't want him to hold the ball and take deep shots. They wanted the ball out of his hands quickly because they felt if he held it, something explosive would happen. But it's like, that's not really Mahomes' weakness, man. If you let Mahomes go back there and slice you up, they got rid of Tyreek Hill. They've got Juju now and Kelsey, and it's ball out, marching down the field. It just felt like a bad game plan from the beginning to say like, oh, we want him to sit in the pocket and play quarterback. And that was what it was like the whole game. It's like, I didn't really see him heat him up. Like they never threw a change up. It was just like, oh, we want him to sit there and pick us apart. And that's exactly what he did. And people were on Twitter narratives like, oh, Mahomes didn't have any impressive throws. It's like, they didn't even need to take any deep shots, man. They were letting it. They wanted him to take the underneath stuff, and he was perfectly fine just slicing him up the whole game. And I thought,
he made no mistakes. It was just
right. And against a guy that good, he's tough to fool. But I mean, if the game plan was pretty easy to pick apart, I'd like for, some of it to be that, heat him up for some of it, just do something different. And Gannon never really had a changeup. They got beat on the same concept twice, wide open touchdowns, right? Sky Moore, wide open. Kadarius Toney, wide open. It was the same fucking thing. So to me, this loss, more than the refs, it falls on the feet of Gannon, the defensive coordinator.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I had in my notes, I mean, if you told me the Eagles blitzed 0 times, I'd believe you. I'm guessing that stat is not actually true, but I'd believe it if it happened to be. Hassan Reddick did not have a very good game. And this, I don't want to make excuses for the Eagles. That's not my point. I almost wonder if the turf conditions affected how well some of those edge rushers were able to get off, because the turf was unbelievably bad.
A lot of players changed their cleats at halftime. It was ridiculous. A lot of players changed their cleats at halftime.
And here's my theory. I believe the NFL is trying to push big turf narratives. All of a sudden you see before the game, we spent 2 years working on this grass field and $800,000. And then everybody sees on the biggest stage how badly that grass field has failed and how much the players all hate it. See, we need turf fields now. Yes, this is the NFL working their magic. I see right through it, however.
All right. But I'm gonna make a Star Wars analogy. I'm gonna make a Star Wars analogy real quick.
Turn the sprinklers on all night.
for my Star Wars fans here, if you just watched the newest episode of Bad Batch, the newly formed empire is trying to get rid of the clone troopers and form the stormtroopers that we're all aware of, right? And they did this by intentionally destroying the cloning facility on Camino, right? And they were going to be like, but they were like, but it's destroyed in a storm, right? They lied to everybody and said it was destroyed in a storm. But then the clones were like, we're going to prove that it was intentionally destroyed. And they proved it, right? They proved that it was intentionally destroyed in the storm. And then the Emperor just comes up and it was like, well, the fact that the clones so easily followed orders and destroyed their own cloning facility, maybe we need new troopers. And they got the stormtroopers anyway.
So Roger Goodell is much like a stormtrooper.
Roger Goodell is much like Emperor Palpatine.
I see.
Wait, the turf is much like a stormtrooper.
The turf is the stormtrooper. The turf is the stormtrooper.
And the film turf is
the clones are the grass. The clones are the grass. The clones are the grass. And they destroyed their own future.
I see.
Right?
I see.
But anyway, it was hilariously bad. I mean, you could tell right away, and guys were slipping everywhere. It was really unfortunate. Travis Kelce had an awesome play where he made some guy fall, and I couldn't even brag about it that much on Twitter because it's like, yeah, of course he fell. and for a little while, I thought the broadcast crew tried to ignore it. And it was clearly bad and they weren't saying anything, but eventually it just got every single drive, multiple players are just going to, Three Stooges fall to the ground and their legs go up way in the air. So
Jerick McKinnon's stumbling through the A-gap.
Right. But we're way off track. We're talking about the lack of pass rush by the Eagles.
This episode of Stay Hot is brought to you by our friends over at HelloFresh. You've got New Year's goals, and HelloFresh is here to help you achieve them. Looking for an easy way to eat well and save money this year? Cut back on expensive takeout and delivery and get started with HelloFresh. You'll love how fast, easy, and affordable it is to whip up a restaurant-quality meal right in your own kitchen. Skip the snowy schlep to the grocery store and stock up on snacks, sides, desserts, and more at the HelloFresh Market. Simply add these staples and sweets to your weekly order and they'll arrive at your doorstep along with your meals. We over here at Stay Hot, we love HelloFresh. So go on over to HelloFresh.com/StayHot21 and use the code StayHot21 for 21 free meals plus free shipping. Again, that's HelloFresh.com/StayHot21 and use the code StayHot21 2021. That's all one word. And jumpstart your New Year's resolution with HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit.
The kicker slipping on that kickoff was the money shot.
No,
Dog, we are never getting this. We are never getting the Super Bowl in Phoenix ever again. I'm glad that I enjoyed it while it was here, because that is never ever happening again.
Cleveland coming soon
until we get the turf field in the new stadium. Yeah, but the Eagles, they're playing a lot of man coverage. It felt like, and that got them in some trouble. Like. Mm-hmm. They were single covering Kelsey a lot at the beginning of the game.
Yeah.
It felt like, let's make Kelsey beat it. Like Kelsey is if we play man across the board, no one else can beat us, because we've got Bradbury, we got Slay, we got all these guys. Like, it is going to be a 100% Kelsey dependent. Let's make it that way. That's kind of what it felt like early, at least. And then Kelsey was just torching him. And then maybe they were like, oh, maybe never mind. But overall, it's just, I just felt like they failed to adjust. I felt like they failed to adjust. I think they needed to mix things up a little bit, and they simply did not. And I don't think last year's Chiefs team, credit to the Chiefs, I don't think last year's Chiefs team beats the Eagles team, because most of the time they're talented enough. They don't really need to change it up. They don't really need to win with scheme. They can keep it simple, play fast, and they've got the guys across the board to win. But this Chiefs team relied on the running game. They relied on quick game, getting the ball out fast. Last year, or versus the Bucs, all that hero ball stuff, like I just don't think that beats a team of this caliber. I think there would have been some mistakes. But Mahomes didn't have a turnover-worthy play, I think, charted by PFF, unless there was one today that I'm forgetting about. But the entire playoffs, I don't think he had a single turnover-worthy play the whole time. So, yeah, he just turned into...
This was an all-timer, like, playoff performance.
Yeah, on the broken ankle. I mean, both of those injuries, like, it's not like he was faking it, man. You could see the ankle bend the wrong way. What a gutsy performance. And, when you take away his superpower, which is, running around, and he was moving fine. So I don't even know if I could say that.
Yeah, but, I think he was banged up and limping, but like he was able to run.
Yeah. We saw him outrun like linebackers for like 40 yards.
Yeah, it was just a really gutsy, tough performance, and he kept the ball out of harm's way. And yeah, I think you got to give him a lot of credit. There's no asterisk in my book with this Chiefs performance. I get that they got knocked out of bounds. I get that there was in the last game to set up the game-winning field goal. I get that there was the holding, but I think you got to give him a lot of credit. And the defense in this game, you don't have to give him as much credit, but you got to give him credit for the Bengals, right? They only put up 20. So, yeah, I hats off to Mahomes, and hats off to Kadarius Toney, who had the punt return, and shout out the offensive line.
The longest punt return in Super Bowl history.
That would surprise me. That did surprise me as well.
That can't be right.
Really?
No,
there's never been one.
Certainly there must have been a better.
He like jogged through the whole thing. Like he looked like he was walking on that entire punt return.
Well, because once he got past like the first wave of guys, there was like no one else in his way.
Right. He didn't want to outrun his blockers, but it was just such a casual stroll for him that it's like, surely there's been a more electric return than that. No, but I mean, the initial moves to make the guys miss, especially on turf that bad, to keep your balance and change direction, like that was really impressive by Toney, who really, he doesn't need to touch the ball very much to make an impact. I think he had like one snap in the first half. I mean, he didn't play much at all, but he's just such a special talent that like he only needs he's like Holland. That's a terrible comparison because Holland in for Manchester City, I believe, he's a striker, is like the greatest player ever. But he's like one of those strikers where you only need to give him like a couple touches per game and they'll just belt a screamer and score. That's what Kadarius is like he doesn't need a volume. You just get it to him and he'll do something with it.
He had 3 touches, 80 yards and a touchdown. So
a lot of those guys where it's like, dude, we just got to get the ball in his hands. All right. The hit rate on those players is like 1%. Those players almost always suck, but Kadarius Toney is actually like that. You actually do need to get the ball in his hands sometimes. And he's also, he can change direction so quick, and they were able to use that in the red zone for him to just get straight up open.
Yeah, running the route basically before the snap even happened. That's something that you notice Doug Peterson do sometimes with Christian Kirk. Is like, damn, they ran that route. It's a Andy Reid thing, man, and that guy is just goated. Like the play designs, they would get in that, use McKinnon as the fullback, or they'd get in that split backfield like behind Mahomes, and then they would like run to the weak side off in a 2-back set. They did it a couple times and it worked like every freaking time in this game. Something about it. They just use the Eagles' strengths against them or something. Like it's their scouting and their uniqueness and their bag of plays that they just tap into every game. They've got what they're good at, but every single game you see something new from them, and they always throw in some tendency breakers. And I mean, I was talking about this on Nerd Sesh, the podcast. Like, where does Andy Reid rank all time now in terms of head coaches? It is
like top
very short list.
Bare minimum.
Bare minimum. It could even be higher than that. I mean, what's a stat that Carson was telling me? He was telling me that he's been to like 10 conference championships or something like that. I mean, they were there all the time with the Eagles. I think like Bill Walsh, I think about him, but Andy Reid has coached much longer with 2 different teams and brought them both to Super Bowls and won 2 of them now. Like, I think he might even be ahead of names like Walsh, and even it's like Belichick and Lombardi ahead of him. But like, it's very short. I think he's flirting with top 5.
I think that's crazy for a guy who had like can't get it done in the big games narratives for such a large portion of his career. And while maybe he's almost kind of like Mahomes in the sense where it's like saying he's there now maybe is too soon, but I bet you he gets enough Super Bowls to where that becomes a very common take.
Right.
Yeah, he's 5th all time in wins now, I believe. And there's a very short list of guys who's been to 4 Super Bowls and won 2 of them, and with 2 different teams as well. Obviously, he didn't win one with the Eagles, but he got there and was, like I said, in the conference championships every single year. So, I don't even think of him as one of these. I kind of have to convince myself that he's one of these all-time historic, like top 5 coach all-time type dudes. But and I think that's just because Belichick has been so dominant that like you kind of compare everyone to him. But if Belichick is like in that tier 1 with maybe Vince Lombardi, where those 2 are just kind of untouchable, just because Reid is playing in an era with one of those guys doesn't mean he's climbed just a shade below those 2, like just a shade. Maybe you could say Chuck Noll and Don Shula are still above him. I certainly don't have like a running list off the top of my head, but I think you could maybe rank him as high as 3.
Do I drop the all-time NFL head coaching quiz?
I don't think so. I don't know enough, man. I don't know enough. Maybe someone who knows more than me, or if
I think people would just look at like Super Bowls and wins, and I guess anything else is tough. Here's what I think, though. I mean, you talk about becoming one of the all-time greatest coach. A lot of it comes down to getting like a franchise quarterback so you can win a bunch of games.
Oh, yeah.
And Reid's got that now. Now, what's interesting is like how long can he go? Can he last through the rest of Mahomes' career? Because he's 65 right now. That makes him one of the older coaches in the NFL.
He's had some health scares too. Like, who knows how much life he'll just want to like enjoy, life at some point here. And it's not like he has a franchise quarterback, but Mahomes was such a project. He was the 3rd quarterback off the board in that draft. Like, his footwork was a mess. Like, there's a very real chance that if Mahomes went to the Jets or a non-Andy Reid type of coach and coaching staff, like, he would not be Patrick Mahomes, So you got to give him some credit for making Mahomes what he is. And there's a world. This wasn't a 100% guarantee. It wasn't a lock. This is the highest of high outcomes when it comes to Mahomes. And yes, like we've said before, people want to take away from somebody. Is it, it's Kelsey, it's Reid, it's Mahomes. Look at all the under 5 air yard passes that he throws. It's all Reid, or Reid has Mahomes. Like, it's everyone, right? That's how you get to win 2 Super Bowls in 4 years and get to another one.
That's how you go to like 6 straight AFC championships.
Everyone's goated. Everyone's the best. So
I will say that, like, he developed, the 3rd quarterback, but Vince Lombardi, Bart Starr was a 17th rounder. Tom Brady went in the 6th, so not quite on that level as far as development goes.
All right. The 17th rounder. Yeah.
Well, Tom Brady actually developed himself. He's more of a winner in that regard, you know.
When's the Patrick Mahomes method coming?
Where's the PM?
I would buy it.
The PM15 method.
Doesn't quite have the same or whatever the miracle drug they shoot in his ankle.
Whatever they injected in him at halftime.
PM15 method is Toradol. But yeah, I think like in terms of legacy, I don't think that this game honestly changed much about Mahomes' legacy in my eyes. Obviously, he's got to get a bunch of rings to ever pass Brady in some people's eyes, and 2 is nice. Right. To me, he's already like the greatest I've ever seen, and I think at his peak, the best quarterback we've ever seen ever. I mean, you look at what he's done in these 5 years, like win or lose this game, whether or not, you know, that holding call gets called, maybe the Eagles drive down and score. Who knows what the outcome of this game could have been in alternate universes. To me, Mahomes' skill set stays the same, and everything is the MVPs are still there, and the way he's performed game in and game out, he just doesn't have bad games. So it helps in the general public's eyes. To me, like he was already on that track to be the best I think he's already the best we've ever seen on the track if he does it long enough to be the greatest. So I don't think this really changes much in my eyes in terms of if we're talking like all-time legacy stuff.
Yeah, I agree. But
it helps. It helps.
I actually kind of disagree. I mean, look, I'm not sitting here saying that I think Patrick Mahomes is a different player. But I think the one thing that maybe Brady had on him was like Brady did it sometimes when he was in his prime and the receivers were like not that high level. Like he had some guys, but you know, there's a difference between doing it with you know, Randy Moss and doing it with, you know, whoever else he had. This was Patrick Mahomes being, and on top of that, Patrick Mahomes, for what it's worth, I know a lot, this isn't like necessarily a good way to judge quarterbacks. He had like 4 interceptions, 2 touchdowns in Super Bowls going into this or something, or he had a couple of games. Yeah. So to be able to like, this is just, they got rid of his number 1 receiver. This kills teams. This is Tyreek Hill is arguably like the most valuable non-quarterback, if not, you know, one of the top 5. And they replaced him with Juju, who is fine, but that was kind of just what they were going to do. And he won MVP, and he had a perfect playoff run, and he won the Super Bowl. I mean, that's...
Yeah, which we haven't seen since Kurt Warner in 2000, right? To win MVP and Super Bowl MVP. Like, that's... It's a nuts run and broke the record for most yards by a player in a single season. I think he had his best season yet. He eliminated any weakness from his game. Like, you can't say he has one. And not even weakness, just like... Last year, you could maybe say like, "Oh, he plays too much hero ball. Oh, that got him in trouble when they went when they were dropping 8 and he was still trying to create." Like there is some blemishes now. Now it's like you can't even do that against it. Like you can't do anything against him. He's a fire breathing dragon. He's LeBron James. He's Michael Jordan. He's just the best we've ever seen.
Yeah, he is the greatest football player I've ever witnessed in my lifetime.
And this game wasn't even like anything too.
No, it's like, dude, this, I mean, he just kind of did his thing, you know?
He just kind of did his thing, and like, he was gutsy and he gutted it out. I don't want to say like this was, you know, there wasn't any like jaw-dropping Mahomes moments or throws in this game. He's just like, and it doesn't have to be great, you know? He just did what he needed to do this whole time, and I think versus the Bengals in the second half, there was maybe some throws that he could have hit that he didn't, that he usually does because of the ankle injury when he was hobbling around. Right. But he's hobbling around. He's hobbling around. And I'll always remember that about this playoff run. Like, they went against the best roster I've seen maybe ever in a long time. Like, stars all across the board, Pro Bowlers all across the board in the Eagles. And Mahomes, it's not like it's a scrub cheese team. It's really not. But he went in against that team, and that team put up 35, and they scored on every single possession in the second half. They overcame a 10-point deficit while his ankle was bothering him, and they still won. Like, it is... There is nothing. Tackles, there is no asterisk
that coming into this game were considered to be liabilities. Like, and they performed well. We'll give them their credit. but
right. It was a decent line overall, but like just not as good as the Eagles in a lot of different ways. Like it just wasn't the roster's not as good as the Eagles roster is, in my opinion.
Right. The defense was getting torched by AJ Brown, and Devontae was breaking tackles. They were unstoppable on 4th and short.
Yes.
It was like any sort of we need 2 yards, guaranteed QB sneak.
Yeah, because they're doing rugby scrums out there, man.
That's gonna get banned in the owners' meeting. Yeah, we saw the last
so
rugby
fucked.
scrum. Will Evers. They're not gonna let teams push.
No, it's just Jalen Hurts.
Year.
Jalen Hurts squat 600 pounds, and you have to deal with it.
There's something so funny about QB sneak from 2 yards out. You know, they got down there and they're 2 yards away, and I'm sure their thought process, well, we got 4 shots at it. They ain't stopping us that many times. We're just going for it like that, I guess.
As far as the Chiefs defense versus the Eagles offense goes, I want to give Jalen Hurts a lot of credit. I thought he played a fantastic game. I really did. Yeah. I know that he dropped the ball, which was bad, obviously.
But Mahomes did the same thing. Mahomes did the same thing last week. You know, that just kind of happens sometimes. Yeah. And outside of that, he played a really great game.
Yeah, there was the drop pick where he threw the first throw to the first touchdown into AJ Brown. He was like, if I was watching on the All 22 and I paused it, and I see AJ Brown bracketed at the deep down the field. No way, no how should you ever throw that pass, but he did. And Trent McDuffie did not track that shit. And it's like, what did I tweet? Nice job, Hurts. Never do that again.
Right. And then he did
it the exact same thing again, and it was a drop pick. So maybe the second time,
I do think the difference was the first time the safety was behind AJ Brown. So AJ really was able to kind of just run under it. It was like, unless McDuffie was able to track that and leap up to get it, AJ was kind of able to run under it, as opposed to the second time, the safety was kind of barreling down and thus was able to jump up and make a play on it.
That's true to some extent. The way that I saw that first touchdown was like AJ Brown turns around and looks for the ball, and he's kind of late adjusting to it. Like, he doesn't adjust to where it actually is until the last second. And because McDuffie isn't tracking the ball and just tracking him, shooting those hands up so late to get it kind of gives him no chance at it. But if that had been thrown right to AJ Brown, or he had known where it was going right like way earlier, I think that's incomplete for sure.
Maybe. Yeah.
That was definitely one of those deep ball accuracy as a wide receiver stat moments to me, because he threw it up there, and then it came down to who can track this thing better? Because if McDuffie can locate that thing, this is going to look like a horrible throw, but he didn't.
That's why AJ Brown's the receiver and McDuffie's the corner, right?
You're right. You're right. But he was great running the ball. He had, I think, the most yards in Super Bowl history on the ground. There's that 4th down and 6. He made some plays out of structure. One where Frank Clark didn't contain him and he rolled out and hit a pass. I thought he was. The pass to Devontae Smith, that it was almost a helmet catch, but Devontae Smith dropped it. That was a
broke my
dime.
heart.
The throw to Dallas Goedert, that was a dime. There was another 3rd and 6 play where was it Goddard who caught this ball? But I think it was
Goddard
crossing route over the middle of the field.
Unbelievable.
Do you guys want to hear? Do you guys want to hear the bet that I had that didn't hit? And I'm so upset because the only thing I needed was an alternate spread on the Eagles 6.5, and the Eagles were up 10, and I was like, oh, this is gonna hit for sure. It was Jalen Hurts over 225 passing yards, Dallas Goedert over 4.5 receptions, and Eagles 6.5 alternate spread, and all I needed.
Tough
Heartbreaking.
Well, I mean, they just straight up lost that game. They didn't win by 5.
Yeah, no, I mean, no, we were. I don't think that's that close. But I was like, shit, we're gonna go to overtime, and they're gonna get a game-winning touchdown and win by 6.
That's not that bad a beat. I mean, they lost.
Yeah,
so
but
if only one of my legs hadn't been wrong.
Yeah, not only did they not cover that, they just straight up did not. It could have been Eagles money line, and they would have lost that one. But yeah, you're right, Matt. That Goddard had like a low key, like insane game. There was a pass he caught. It was like a 2-yard pass, but he like completely mossed Leo Chanel, I believe. Like where Chanel was like totally had his hands in between the
such a face
hands
mask.
Goddard.
They missed it. They missed it badly.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, I didn't see that.
I didn't either, but my mom pointed it out. She's like, "That's a face mask."
W mom,
right? shout out, Mrs. Spanauer. Yeah, it was. I thought Hurts overall played a very good game, and the dropping thing is tough, and I was really hoping I will admit my bias here. Like I was really hoping Hurts could get a win, so like the read option, like running quarterback
narrative,
could get a ring. But man, he did prove that you could put up, and this is something that shouldn't need to be proven to anybody because in the last few years, I mean, we've seen Kaepernick get there, we've seen Cam get there, we've seen Hurts get there, and we've seen Hurts put up 35 points once he is there. Like this is a very good offense, man. Like it is very, very possible to build a Super Bowl caliber offense around a quarterback who can run the football. Like read option is just good. It's a good thing to have in your bag. It really there is nothing
works
bad about
really
that.
well.
And obviously it's bad when he's dropping the football or bailing out of a clean pocket. But I noticed that maybe a little bit tonight where I thought he could maybe have stayed in. There was like one time where I can't exactly remember it was in the first half where I thought he could have stayed in, but overall not too. I thought he played pretty well. I thought
if you're blaming it on him, you're just blaming it on the quarterback because that's the position.
He had 380 yards and
the
4 touchdowns.
Yeah, it was
sorry. He had a great game. The reason they lost is that they didn't get pressure on Mahomes. It's and the couple of mistakes they did make, because you couldn't force any Mahomes mistakes and he played basically flawless, you weren't you have to either play perfect or force a Mahomes mistake, and they didn't do those things. So
and Spags just adjusted a little bit more. And I wish that I had the all 22, and I'm definitely going to look at that and maybe make a video on exactly what was different in the first half than the second half. But it seemed like that first half they were just an empty, and Hurts would just get it and take off, and they didn't really have an answer for that. It seemed like in the second half, they were heating them up a little bit more. Like they had more guys coming downhill. They were clogging up those rushing lanes a little bit more. That's kind of what it felt like to me, but it's tough to know. I know they had moment.
I felt like there were more free rushers in the second half.
Yeah, he did a really good job getting free rushers and dialed up a couple blitzes that he knew would get home. And once Hurts bailed out, he had one very early in the game where obviously Frank Clark didn't contain. I already mentioned it. And he got out and hit a play. But it seemed like every time Hurts broke the pocket in the second half, there wasn't too much to be had.
Yeah. Speaking of scheme, though, I know that the Eagles offensive coordinator was kind of in the running for a new job after this game. Obviously, we can discuss as to whether or not he'll probably still be fine. Yeah,
they scored 35.
They scored 35, but the discussion that needs to be had, I think, is around Bieniemy. The Chiefs scored 38, and the fact that Bieniemy still has not had an offensive or a head coaching job, I think is a little bit ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, his contract is up after this year, so we'll see if they even bring him back. Or I know they've got Matt Nagy on the staff. We'll see if they want to pay him if they're going to be the ones to pay him the highest paid offensive coordinator, make him the highest paid offensive coordinator in the league, or if they feel like they can survive without him. And they've got Nagy in the wings, and they've always got Reed. So we'll see. I mean, what happens with him and his contract situation? That's definitely one to watch out for. But I agree. I talked to Bieniemy at the Super Bowl, and he was super well spoken. I kind of expected him to not be that good at interviews because he always gets these interviews and he never gets the job. So I was like, oh man, maybe he's going to be a bad interview or come off as abrasive. I thought he was the best guy I talked to. So yeah, and he's had the results to back it up. I've heard, he's got issues in college, he ran into some legal trouble, but that was a long time ago, man.
How old is he? Like, at what point? Like, how long does this record supposed to? Like, you can't make mistakes. You can't be
right.
Like, you can't be 18. Like, I'm sorry. Like, what?
I've always kind of maybe suspected that like these teams think that it's Reed that's working all this magic, or maybe they think that like, well, he's got Mahomes, so I'm not moved. But yeah, I definitely think he deserves, some type of opportunity.
Right. You look at the Andy Reid offense and all the creativity, and I think like who wouldn't want to pair a young quarterback with that type of guy, with that type of offense? Like the screen, like the quick game stuff is all beautiful. The screens are all beautiful. The red zone package is beautiful. And yeah, it's just like, that's exactly the offense that anyone should want to run. You think it's perfect. It's awesome.
I mean, you would think that, maybe people wouldn't bring in Belichick guys because it's just Belichick running that system. And Belichick guys consistently don't work out, right? People bring in guys from the McVay and Shanahan tree all the time. That is like the most popular tree to pick from right now.
And Jordan and Doug Peterson is an Andy Reid disciple, right? Like he also had a lot of success running, not the exact same thing, but that's kind of the branch that he comes from and he obviously turned Trevor Lawrence's career around. Like I definitely agree. Like Steichen deserves a bunch of credit this year, and their offense, their scheme was just unbeatable. It really was. So I get it if you hire him, but yeah, I always, it is a little weird that Bieniemy hasn't had that shot, and there's got to be some reason. I've heard that he's not a very good communicator of his vision. He can't get everybody quite out of the he's not maybe the leader, the CEO of a team like you would like a head coach to be, and it's tough to say from the outside looking in, but I mean, everything that I've seen, talking to the guy personally, just he seemed like a guy I'd want to play for, and that's all I can say. And he seems like he comes from a place. He's got the
dude.
He's got the Theo Ash vibe check. So it's like, what else?
The 10 minutes. Hey, if I was an NFL owner and head coaching interviews were 10 minutes of various people asking him questions in a crowded media day arena, he would have gotten my stamp. All right, he blew me away in that setting. He was very, very well spoken.
When I own the Browns and I hire Theo as VP of player personnel and Matt as the GM, I'm hiring Eric Bieniemy as our head coach and Joe Thomas as whatever he wants.
I want to be quarterback. So.
You want to be
I want to be quarterback. No.
What is this, like the playground? No, I'm
if you don't make me quarterback,
I want to be quarterback. You better not. Yeah, I don't have too much to say about the Eagles offense. Like they did what they've been doing all year. They were a buzzsaw. That opening drive was super impressive. I do want to give the Chiefs credit for what they did against the Eagles run game. There really wasn't too much there outside of Hurts, like Miles Sanders, Kenneth Gainwell, quiet days for both of them. Boston Scott had a run where he juked everybody out. But outside of that, I thought they tackled pretty well, just like they did last week versus Cincinnati. They were always, you didn't see any of those yak chase plays last week. And this week, you didn't see too many missed tackles from them. And they were swarming whenever they did hand the ball off. It felt like there was really nowhere to go on those RPOs, like when Hurts did give it. And again, something on all 22. I'm not quite. I'll be the first to say that I'm not quite smart enough to see exactly what they were doing on the broadcast angle right away. But,
it's impossible. Yeah. I mean, and the thing about watching a broadcast, dude, is like you can only pay attention to one thing at a time. Really, you can't see everything all at once
because the camera just follows the ball and they zoom in on the quarterback and like the tackle box, and that's it.
But there were aspects of the Chiefs defense that did impress me, despite the fact that they did get cooked for a lot of the game.
Yeah.
That second half, they did only allow 11 points. So,
yeah,
true.
I think the other thing I feel maybe not about the game, but about these teams is like going into next year. I don't feel that bad for the Eagles for losing. Ultimately, I think the Super Bowl is worse when both of the teams have won a Super Bowl recently. That takes away the stakes. I don't feel that bad for either of them. But you look at the Eagles, it's like you still got Hurts on the nothing contract, and you have 2 first-round picks. There's no reason they can't be back.
They have a lot of free agents, but they're supposed to have a lot of cap space, and they have 2 first-round picks.
And they can be aggressive. Yeah.
It just kind of felt like this was the year, though. Like, the Chiefs will always be back as long as they have Mahomes. Yeah. The Eagles, like, Bradbury, like, the roster just seems so good, and everything just seemed their way, and, like, their playoff run was so easy getting here, and it kind of, I don't feel like they needed to win this year, but we're going to look back, and if this wasn't their best shot, I would be shocked if next year's their roster looked better on paper or even the same.
I mean, that's kind of what we thought. That's kind of what we thought about the Bengals last year, though,
and they didn't make it back.
I guess that's true, but now we're thinking about the Bengals as like, well, this team is now, they're just good, and they're going to be in the conversation every year.
I agree,
and I think that can be the Eagles.
I think so too, but the Bengals didn't make it back.
Look. I agree. Like, I think the Eagles could easily be back. I do. I think trying, like, what the breaks they got this year do not affect the breaks that they got next year. I don't want to hear anything about regression to the mean before the offseason has even happened, and they're set up beautifully to retain a lot of their roster.
To the mean from the Stay Hot account right now.
Yeah, this does feel like the Bengals, where it doesn't feel like anything here is that unsustainable. It's not like, oh, that was
right.
I mean, I guess with the Bengals, there was a lot of deep shot, like, but some of that'll come back down to earth, but it didn't end up happening.
The thing that is hard to repeat, you were healthy.
Yeah.
You had everybody healthy. That's half the battle. And next year it could be you that gets a major injury and the 49ers are healthy. And that'll
never happen.
Because the 49ers are never healthy.
because luckily the 49ers doctor,
the Packers will be healthy. The Packers will be healthy is what you mean. The Panthers will be healthy.
There we go.
The Giants are going to get a real wide receiver, and
it's not going to be the whatever Giants team with the current
Isaiah Hodgins,
the skeleton crew,
the G League roster they're running out there every day. I don't know, but I'm interested to see what these teams do this offseason. For the Chiefs long term, the thing that's going to make them so competitive is that Mahomes contract is so good. The thing is that it goes up next year by I think about like $9 million. It was 35, which is a pretty big steal. Even 45 is not that bad. But with the way that the NFL cap works and how much it goes up, I mean, it just doesn't rise that much in the future. And in fact, not this year. Now, if it's 2023, it's like 46 million. Next year, it goes down to 44. So in the long run, that contract's going to end up looking like, not even like, I would wonder by the end of it, if it'll even be top 10 in quarterbacks being paid. It's that good. And having that freedom and that mobility to go build the rest of the roster is going to be big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they probably don't have to do a lot to their offense, right? They scored 35.
Yeah, apparently you don't have to have good receivers. You don't have to have an elite receiver, which is like the hardest, most expensive thing to get.
They have Travis Kelce. Travis Kelce is an elite wide receiver as far as I'm concerned. All right. When I make the wide receiver ranking quiz, Travis Kelce is going to be on there.
Don't do that because this is what people use to try to say that he's not the best tight end of all time. Oh, he's actually a receiver. Nope.
No, we'll just say he's actually so good as a tight. He's just like actually just so good as a tight end that we can't compare him to tight ends anymore.
I can accept that. All I know is that the team with more Cincinnati players won. And this speaks volume about the Eagles can make it back, but they need to draft Ivan Pace Jr. now.
That's the truth. When they take Ivan Pace in the second round, it's over.
Yes. I will never doubt you at the Cincinnati players after this. After any Ohio or South Carolina player with a Matt stamp, I'm betting on. I don't know. I try to think of anything else to say about this game.
I mean, it's one game, you know.
We've talked for almost 50 minutes. I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah, but I'll need to see the all 22. I'm definitely going to rewatch this thing and do a full breakdown on it.
I mean, it was great. I imagine it'll be a great rewatch too.
Overall, I just think that I just want people to know it wasn't Jalen Hurts' fault.
I want people to know it wasn't Jalen Hurts' fault.
It's not your fault. Think about that.
All the comments are like, bro, please stop dick riding.
Anyway, next year's Super Bowl. Let's talk about it. Who you got in the 2024
Eagles Browns?
Jesus Christ.
Who do I have in next year's Super Bowl?
I don't know. I was looking at the betting odds because the betting odds for the Super Bowl and the MVP are out.
God, if you're betting on the Super Bowl now,
I mean, this is when the odds are probably going to be best, right? The Super Bowl odds right now, Kansas City obviously has the best odds at plus 600. Then you have Buffalo, Philly, Cincinnati, San Francisco, Dallas, Baltimore, the Chargers, the Jags, the Lions. I'd kind of be interested in doing plus 2,500 on Jacksonville. I think that'd be an interesting bet to see how that goes. But I don't know. I don't know who I would pick right now to win it all.
Give me Chiefs versus. Oh, I don't know. Chiefs
it's
versus.
Hard,
this is the Cowboys.
Are you going to pick Chiefs Niners again, and just we're going to have that again?
We're going to get that Chiefs versus Lions Super Bowl when Anthony Richardson balls out in Detroit is gonna hit like crack cocaine to me next year. That's what I'll say. Yeah. I'm mocking Anthony Richardson to the Lions, and then they're going to sign every free agent defender, and they're gonna ball out, and we got that. We're gonna get that.
In reality, we're actually
Chiefs.
getting
Mahomes is getting ring number 3. That's my way too early prediction.
We're gonna get a Minnesota Vikings Super Bowl. That's really
no, we are not.
With Brian Flores as the defensive coordinator, their corners are gonna get healthy. And they're going to have the
corners are going to retire, bro. Patrick Peterson is going to be 38.
They have the two rookies. They have the two
that
rookies.
Could be wrong.
They have Andrew Booth, and they have who's the other guy? They had 2 guys that were hurt this year.
The Mizzou guy, Caleb Evans. Is that who you're referring to?
I don't know. I know they had 2 corners that were hurt. Maybe one of them wasn't a rookie, but I know they had Andrew Booth that was hurt, and they had one other guy that was hurt. They're going to have them back. They're going to have Brian Flores as their defensive coordinator, and they're going to go to the Super Bowl. And that's the path.
I don't know. Maybe
or Matt Corral leads the Carolina Panthers, and
this is all. This is
all so I can get plus 5,000 betting odds.
It's too low. I don't really. I'm just trying to make conversation.
We're not gonna pick the Super Bowl right now. But yeah, Theo, you can rock with your Chiefs Lions. And I'm
just going to pick the Chiefs every year from now on, and I'll be right more than most people instead of picking something different. It's going to be the Mahomes MVP, Myles Garrett Defensive Player of the Year, Justin Jefferson Offensive Player of the Year every year from now.
Ohio State wide receiver rookie offensive rookie of the year. Bro, dude, I mean, I've got most of them locked in every season.
It's a pretty easy bet.
First edge rusher off the board, Defensive Player of the Year. I don't know why I deviate from the formula.
Unless it's a Cincinnati corner or actually, Matt, doesn't South Carolina have a corner this year?
Cam Smith.
Yeah, Cam Smith.
He's like that, you have to let us know.
He'll be he's got the Matt stamp. He's nice. There's Defensive Player of the Year Defensive Player of the Year.
It's crazy how the last 2 number 1 corners have been out of their draft class have been from South Carolina and Cincinnati.
That's crazy. Oh, we didn't talk about the halftime show at all.
I thought
Rihanna sounded really good. I thought her vocals, sometimes when something gets performed live, it sounds a little off. I mean, there's a very good chance that it was all just lip synced. So maybe I'm giving her too much credit. But
I thought the choreography dancing was a little bit weird.
Well, she was pregnant, so they can't have her doing anything crazy, you know? Like, she can't be...
I mean, she can't do anything crazy, but, like, I'm just saying this, like...
Jumping off the stadium roof like Lady Gaga did a couple years ago. Like, she is with a child.
Like, I guess, but I'm just like...
We're not trying
I'm just saying, as far as, like, the backup dancers, they could... I don't know. I just thought it was, like, a little bit goofy.
It was a little bit bland. It was a little bit of a more bland halftime show than what you usually get, but it's... It's Rihanna. It's the voice,
I was workshopping a tweet to be like, oh my God, I think that's Theo Ash out there as one of the dancers, but I couldn't put it together.
I don't get it.
I also, I just thought it'd be funny. It's like, oh my God, is that Theo Ash?
And have people like rewinding to try and find.
But I like the person who said the halftime show should have been BLAIDEN, Elton John, and Ice Spice.
We're getting Tacky on Airplane with like Elton. It's like Tacky on Airplane into Have Mercy on the Criminal, and then like Ice Spice doing like ad libs like I'm a munch. Like
that's just what she sounds like. That's totally something she would.
I don't know, bro. I don't actually listen to Ice Spice.
I don't either, but I'm pretty pro Ice Spice, I think.
No, I was like, I'm not anti Ice Spice. I'm just like,
why do you hate Ice Spice, man?
No.
I listen to Ice Spice all the time. Ice Spice, if you're listening to this, I love your music, and
I'm telling Cammy, bro.
She'd agree. She's done worse. But I love Ice Spice, and I'm a big fan of her music, and I have a LA Times profile piece if you're wondering, Ice Spice. So yeah, if you ever want to talk about navigating fame with me, I'd love to be a head,
me hitting up Billie Eilish. Me hitting up Billie Eilish.
You can't say anything to me. You're the worst at this.
I was dick riding Billie Eilish before I had a girlfriend. Okay, that's different.
I'm going to go through your Twitter likes right now, and I'm going to see something worse than anything I've ever said within the first 5 ones. So.
No, you won't.
I liked your dream halftime show, Matt, of Lana and Radiohead, and just make everyone really sad.
I got killed for that, man.
I want to hear motion picture soundtrack. I want to hear motion picture soundtrack at halftime. All right.
I texted my friends, where's King Cruel? When is Rihanna bringing out King Cruel?
Where's like Dr. Dre again? Let's bring back Dr. Dre.
Again, just run back the same halftime show.
Dr. Dre, Snoop Dogg, 50 Cent.
I would definitely just do the host scaring music. Like I said, JPEG Mafia and Danny Brown are coming out with a collab album that I'm very excited for. And the timing seems just about right that they could have done a snippet or something or debuted it at the Super Bowl. And that would have been my pick. And the Super Bowl won't let that go, though.
What were you guys listening to like before the Super Bowl started? Like music? What music were you listening to?
Nothing. I was just
I'm not
talking.
In the game. I gotta get
I wasn't like, were you in your Hurts jersey, like pretending you're at the locker, like nodding your head?
I was listening to me.
That's the most predictable
he thinks he's on the team. He really does
listening to when you were in the tunnel.
Shut up. He walked out of his kitchen hallway, like, here we go, walking out.
No, hold on, wait a minute.
People
you thought I was finished.
Like making people vape, like to simulate the smoke coming out. Like, man, I'm embarrassed for your Super Bowl party. I know what the scene was like.
No, there's a video on Zach's Snapchat of like me just like dropping back to throw.
Oh,
you actually think you're going in the game? It's unbelievable.
No, we were gonna do like a whole like thing of like
you are living through Jalen Hurts. This is sad. You are living through Jalen
we were gonna
he
have
don't know you, little bro. He do not know you.
His mom liked my video though. No, we were gonna do it so I was gonna mimic everything Jalen Hurts did. It's like when he gets in the huddle, I've got my like fist up against the TV.
That actually would have been funny as hell.
It would have been funny, but
you do kind of got to lean into it a little bit when if you're not beating the allegations, so you might as well get clout chase.
I was too locked into like watching the game to like really eyes glued to the screen. I was watching my idol.
Oh boy.
Hey, he only gets better. So after this year, I mean, the only thing he could do now is win the Super Bowl and win MVP. So those are going to be my bets: is Jalen Hurts MVP and Eagles to win the Super Bowl.
I would be very interested to see if he, continues to improve and just plays like, not plays at an all-pro level, because he was arguably doing that this year. But like, if he's just like one of those undeniable tier 1 guys, hangs in the pocket a little bit more, and that's about the only thing I could say about his game right now is like he kind of has that maybe like. I do feel like he bails from clean pockets. In some games, it is an issue, and that's about it. And that's kind of the only thing. And maybe they lose somebody like Brown or Smith to injury, and like he continues to up his game like without the supporting cast. And I think it's very possible. I mean, I'm done downing him, and he could improve again. He still has. He could. he could. I'm not going to laugh at anybody projecting that. If you want to say Hurts MVP next year, I mean, you were saying that this year, Blaiden.
Yeah,
I didn't.
Well, he was a dark horse this year. Next year, he's just the MVP.
Yes.
So, but I don't have anything else. So unless you guys do, I say we can go to bed, have a great night's sleep, and wish everyone a sunset on this glorious NFL season, and get to draft stuff and free agency and the whole off season shebang. But
that's how it ends.
That's how it ends.
That's the shebang.
that's the dealio. But yeah, thank you all so much for tuning in. And as always, from Corn Boy, Bird Boy, and Lemon Boy, we will catch you all in the next NFL season.